baru, konsep baru yang saya yakin memiliki banyak kejutan dan aspek novelty yang kita butuhkan untuk membangkitkan ide-ide kita sendiri. Acara keseluruhan akan diselenggarakan di gedung Ajijasa Fakultas Seni Rupa ISI Yogyakarta. Pamerannya diselenggarakan secara luring dan secara daring. Kuliah dari dosen tamu juga di sana. Lihat, perhatikan, ambil hikmahnya bagaimana mereka menghadirkan merepresentasi yang non benda itu menjadi karya gelaran kreatif. Untuk melihat, untuk menyaksikan metafor-metafor baru, ide baru, konsep baru yang saya yakin memiliki banyak kejutan dan aspek novelty yang kita butuhkan untuk membangkitkan ide-ide kita sendiri. Acara keseluruhan akan diselenggarakan di gedung Ajijasa Fakultas Seni Rupa ISI Yogyakarta. Pamerannya diselenggarakan secara luring dan secara daring. Kuliah dari dosen tamu juga di sana. Lihat, perhatikan, ambil hikmahnya bagaimana mereka menghadirkan merepresentasi yang non benda itu menjadi karya gelaran kreatif. Survivability dan The Arts. Kita sekarang sadar bahwa ketika orang membuat karya seni, membuat desain, membuat karya kreatif, justru sekarang yang relevan justru aspek intangible-nya. Yang dibuat itu justru yang menarik aspek non bendanya. Cerita yang dihadirkan melalui karya kreatif, apakah fine art atau desain atau barangkali dengan instalasi, video dan performance art. Mereka berbagi cerita bagaimana mereka survive dalam kondisi seperti sekarang ini yang mereka metaforkan melalui karya-karya kreatif mereka yang merupakan refleksi dari keadaan yang sama-sama kita rasakan secara global. Survivability dan The Arts. Kita sekarang sadar bahwa ketika orang membuat karya seni, membuat desain, membuat karya kreatif, justru sekarang yang relevan justru aspek intangible-nya. Yang dibuat itu justru yang menarik aspek non bendanya. Cerita yang dihadirkan melalui karya kreatif, apakah fine art atau desain atau barangkali dengan instalasi, video dan performance art. Mereka berbagi cerita bagaimana mereka survive dalam kondisi seperti sekarang ini yang mereka metaforkan melalui karya-karya kreatif mereka yang merupakan refleksi dari keadaan yang sama-sama kita rasakan secara global. Survivability dan The Arts. Kita sekarang sadar bahwa ketika orang membuat karya seni, membuat desain, membuat karya kreatif, justru sekarang yang relevan justru aspek intangible-nya. Yang dibuat itu justru yang menarik aspek non bendanya. Cerita yang dihadirkan melalui karya kreatif, apakah fine art atau desain atau barangkali dengan instalasi, video dan performance art. Mereka berbagi cerita bagaimana mereka survive dalam kondisi seperti sekarang ini yang mereka metaforkan melalui karya-karya kreatif mereka yang merupakan refleksi dari keadaan yang sama-sama kita rasakan secara global. Untuk melihat, untuk menyaksikan metafor-metafor baru, ide baru, konsep baru yang yakin karya-karya kreatif mereka banyak yang merupakan aspek refleksi dari keadaan yang sama-sama kita rasakan secara global, ide-ide kita sendiri. Acara keseluruhan akan diselenggarakan di gedung Ajijasa Fakultas Seni Rupa ISI Yogyakarta. Pamerannya diselenggarakan secara luring dan secara daring. Kuliah dari dosen tamu juga di sana. Lihat, perhatikan, ambil hikmahnya bagaimana mereka menghadirkan presentasi yang non benda itu menjadi karya gelaran kreatif. Untuk melihat, untuk menyaksikan metafor-metafor baru, ide baru, konsep baru yang saya yakin memiliki banyak kejutan dan aspek novelty yang kita butuhkan untuk membangkitkan ide-ide kita sendiri. Acara keseluruhan akan diselenggarakan di gedung Ajijasa Fakultas Seni Rupa ISI Yogyakarta. Pamerannya diselenggarakan secara luring dan secara daring. Kuliah dari dosen tamu juga di sana. Lihat, perhatikan, ambil hikmahnya bagaimana mereka menghadirkan presentasi yang non benda itu menjadi karya gelaran kreatif. Untuk melihat, untuk menyaksikan metafor-metafor baru, ide baru, konsep baru yang saya yakin memiliki banyak kejutan dan aspek novelty yang kita butuhkan untuk membangkitkan ide-ide kita sendiri. Acara keseluruhan akan diselenggarakan di gedung Ajijasa Fakultas Seni Rupa ISI Yogyakarta. Pamerannya diselenggarakan secara luring dan secara daring. Kuliah dari dosen tamu juga di sana. Lihat, perhatikan, ambil hikmahnya bagaimana mereka menghadirkan presentasi yang non benda itu menjadi karya gelaran kreatif. Survivability dan The Arts. Kita sekarang sadar bahwa ketika orang membuat karya seni, membuat desain, membuat karya kreatif, justru sekarang yang relevan justru aspek intangible-nya. Yang dibuat itu justru yang menarik aspek non bendanya. Cerita yang dihadirkan melalui karya kreatif, apakah fine art atau desain atau barangkali dengan instalasi, video dan performance art. Mereka berbagi cerita bagaimana mereka survive dalam kondisi seperti sekarang ini yang mereka metaforkan melalui karya-karya kreatif mereka yang merupakan refleksi dari keadaan yang sama-sama kita rasakan secara global. Survivability dan The Arts. Kita sekarang sadar bahwa ketika orang membuat karya seni, membuat desain, membuat karya kreatif, justru sekarang yang relevan justru aspek intangible-nya. Yang dibuat itu justru yang menarik aspek non bendanya. Cerita yang dihadirkan melalui karya kreatif, apakah fine art atau desain atau barangkali dengan instalasi, video dan performance art. Mereka berbagi cerita bagaimana mereka survive dalam kondisi seperti sekarang ini yang mereka metaforkan melalui karya-karya kreatif mereka yang merupakan refleksi dari keadaan yang sama-sama kita rasakan secara global. Survivability dan The Arts. Kita sekarang sadar bahwa ketika orang membuat karya seni, membuat desain, membuat karya kreatif, Justru sekarang yang relevan justru aspek intangible-nya. Yang dibuat itu justru yang menarik aspek non-bendanya. Cerita yang dihadirkan melalui karya kreatif, apakah fine art atau desain, atau barangkali dengan instalasi, video, dan performance art. Mereka berbagi cerita bagaimana mereka survive dalam kondisi seperti sekarang ini, yang mereka metaforkan melalui karya-karya kreatif mereka yang merupakan refleksi dari keadaan yang sama-sama kita rasakan secara global. Survivability dan The Arts. Kita sekarang sadar bahwa ketika orang membuat karya seni, membuat desain, membuat karya kreatif, justru sekarang yang relevan justru aspek intangible-nya. Yang dibuat itu justru yang menarik aspek non-bendanya. Cerita yang dihadirkan melalui karya kreatif, apakah fine art atau desain, atau barangkali dengan instalasi, video, dan performance art. Mereka berbagi cerita bagaimana mereka survive dalam kondisi seperti sekarang ini, yang mereka metaforkan melalui karya-karya kreatif mereka yang merupakan refleksi dari keadaan yang sama-sama kita rasakan secara global. Survivability dan The Arts. Kita sekarang sadar bahwa ketika orang membuat untuk melihat, untuk menyaksikan metafor-metafor baru, ide baru, konsep baru yang saya yakin memiliki banyak kejutan dan aspek novelty yang kita butuhkan untuk membangkitkan ide-ide kita sendiri. Acara keseluruhan akan diselenggarakan di gedung Ajijasa Fakultas Seni Rupa ISI Yogyakarta. Pamerannya diselenggarakan secara luring dan secara daring. Kuliah dari dosen tamu juga di sana. Lihat, perhatikan, ambil hikmahnya bagaimana mereka menghadirkan presentasi yang non benda itu menjadi karya gelaran kreatif. Untuk melihat, untuk menyaksikan metafor-metafor baru, ide baru, konsep baru yang saya yakin memiliki banyak kejutan dan aspek novelty yang kita butuhkan untuk membangkitkan ide-ide kita sendiri. Acara keseluruhan akan diselenggarakan di gedung Ajijasa Fakultas Seni Rupa ISI Yogyakarta. Pamerannya diselenggarakan secara luring dan secara daring. Kuliah dari dosen tamu juga di sana. Lihat, perhatikan, ambil hikmahnya bagaimana mereka menghadirkan presentasi yang non benda itu menjadi karya gelaran kreatif. Untuk melihat, untuk menyaksikan metafor-metafor baru, ide baru, konsep baru yang saya yakin memiliki banyak kejutan dan aspek novelty yang kita butuhkan untuk membangkitkan ide-ide kita sendiri. Acara keseluruhan akan diselenggarakan di gedung Aji Jasa Fakultas Seni Rupa ISI Yogyakarta. Pamerannya diselenggarakan secara luring dan secara daring. Kuliah dari dosen tamu juga di sana. Lihat, perhatikan, ambil hikmahnya bagaimana mereka menghadirkan presentasi yang non benda itu menjadi karya gelaran kreatif. Untuk melihat, untuk menyaksikan metafor-metafor baru, ide baru, konsep baru yang saya yakin memiliki banyak kejutan dan aspek novelty yang kita butuhkan untuk membangkitkan ide-ide kita sendiri. Acara keseluruhan akan diselenggarakan di gedung Aji Jasa Fakultas Seni Rupa ISI Yogyakarta. Pamerannya diselenggarakan secara luring dan secara daring. Kuliah dari dosen tamu juga di sana. Lihat, perhatikan, ambil hikmahnya bagaimana mereka menghadirkan presentasi yang non benda itu menjadi karya gelaran kreatif.
Mas Aji, oke.
Untuk melihat, untuk menyaksikan.
Cek.
Bisa lensa dong. Bisa lensa enggak?
Oke.
Ada, ya Allah, udah dibilangin berkali gitu loh. Ini juga bisa kan tinggal kirim gitu ya. Padahal, iya kan?
Cek.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Cek.
Oke, akan kita mulai. 1, 2, 3, live.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, and good morning. The Honorable Vice Deans of Faculty of Visual Arts, Institut Seni Indonesia, Yogyakarta,
Recording in progress.
the Honorable Presenters and Moderator, and outstanding invited guests, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Guest Lecture Series and International Art Exhibition, Survivability and The Arts. My name is Dara Desi, and I feel honored to be your Master of Ceremony for today. It is such a great pleasure to be able to gather here with guests and peers at Gedung Ajiasa Faculty of Visual Arts and to greet all of the participants who joined via Zoom. I hope everyone is well and healthy. Thank you for your patience, and we are sorry for the 10-minute delay. Before we begin, I will read the items of our lecture. Today, there will be 3 lecture sessions. First is by Dr. Alfi Lufiani, M.F.A. Second is by Hasalim M.F.A. and last is by Mumtaz Mustard, Ph.D. In each section, there will be the presentation part followed by a discussion session. Before we start, I would like to remind everyone in the building to keep your masks on at all times and be mindful of the health protocol. Now, without further ado, let's begin the first lecture of the day, In a Tumultuous World, Art Matter by Dr. Alfi Lufiani, M.F.A. Please welcome our moderator, Ms. Henning Tias Widowati.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Can I have another mic, please? Hi, let me start all over again. There was a little trouble with the mic. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 3rd day of the guest lecture series organized by Visual Art Faculty, Institut Seni Indonesia, Yogyakarta. Today, again, I am Henning Tias Widowati, will be here as the moderator. Well, before we start, let me share you this information. There will be 3 lectures delivered today, but unlike what we had on the first day and also the second day, we are going to have a little bit different arrangement here today. All 3 speakers will simultaneously present the materials, and then all the question and answer session will be localized at the end of the program. But before that, let me check whether the other 2 speakers here already. Ibu Mumtaz and Ibu Hazel, are you here already?
Yes,
Hi.
I'm here already.
Yeah,
Hi.
good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Assalamualaikum.
We will do a little bit changes here, yeah. After the first speaker, the second speaker will do the presentation and then continue with the third. It is a little bit different with the rundown that you had received from the committee, but I think it's going to be more interesting to have it arranged this way. Okay. Well, each speaker, you will have 30 minutes to present your material. And then because the question and answer session will be, we will have it at the end of the program. So audience, make sure that you take notes on the question you have while the presentation is running. And then for those who join this program via Zoom, you may type your question right away on the chat rooms while enjoying the presentation. Okay, that was the rule. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's step to the main agenda. Soon, you are going to have the first lecture from Dr. Alfi Luviani, M.F.A. This lady lecturer has been living her teaching career at her undergraduate degree alma mater program, Craft Department of ISI Yogyakarta. Currently, she is also on the chair of this department. However, her managerial responsibilities do not prevent her from doing scientific academic activities. She has been very active in guest lecturing, presenting papers, and becoming a moderator in international seminars and conferences. And today, you have an opportunity to have her sharing her ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Alfi Luviani, M.F.A.
Ada ini dari Hasalim, mungkin bisa disapa dari Singapura.
Okay.
Tapi dia tidak bisa unmute.
Yeah, okay. Let me extend our greet first to Ibu Hasalim. Good morning, Ibu Hasalim. Are you here?
Hi, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, let's have the first presentation.
Thank you so much, Ibu as a moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you again. Before, I would like to express my gratitude, especially for the committee and the chairman, Professor M.F.A, Ph.D, and Dean of the Faculty of Visual Art for having me. Is that okay? For having me to speak in this. The dean and the committee asked me to speak on this guest lecture series with a very special theme, that the arts and survivability, if I'm not mistaken, Ibu Wit, yeah, and it's a very contextual topic because all of us around the world are really have a very hard time to face the pandemic, and of course we really would like to know how art plays a role in this condition, the arts and craft, of course. Okay, I'm gonna start to share my presentation. Yeah, okay. So my title is In a Tumultuous World, Art Matters. Mungkin in bahasa Indonesia saya bisa bicara di situasi dunia yang kacau, kita menyadari betapa seni itu penting. Okay, but later I think I'm gonna just present gado-gado ya Ibu Wit, both in English and bahasa Indonesia or Indonesian. Okay, here we can see that art allows us to examine what it means to be human, to voice and express, and to bring people and ideas together. And nowadays, we know that all of us here, we are still experiencing a global pandemic. We are engaging with racial injustice and the recent protests across the globe, especially the protests nowadays. We found that, especially in Europe, Europeans reject to wear a mask, and also they reject to have a vaccinated. It's a bit sad, but now as Indonesian, I feel that I'm really lucky that we don't have very hard situation to have a vaccine. I mean, the people, it's obey the government to have vaccinated. So in time of crisis, we need humanity, expression, and the community that the arts create. And we are seeing disease become politicized, maybe not in every country, but most, yeah. And we are seeing a growing mental health crisis as a response to COVID-19. And this is a time to value the arts, whether big or small, sidewalk chalk, art or community murals. Art makes a difference in how we live our lives. And the arts create wellness in our day-to-day lives by helping us process our lives individually and allowing us to come together collectively. Art allows us to communicate from afar, generating positivity, appreciation, and hope during COVID-19. And in times of social injustice and unrest, art amplifies important voices and messages. Now I can say that why art matters, ya. Kenapa seni itu penting? Because art is an expression of what it means to be human, and art fosters understanding between communities. Art also help us express gratitude during difficult time, and this is very important. And art allow us to document and process events. And art give us immeasurable personal and social benefits. And of course, this is not only the 5 factors why art matters. You can, after the research or after you also experience your own self, you can always add the more aspect and more reason why artist matters. Okay, and then this is just the example. In Denver, the artist named Austin, his name is kind of like funny, Austin Zucchini Fowler. He has a murals that depict the healthcare professional as an angles, yeah. And of course, I think we are all agree in this, the pandemic situation, the healthcare professionals such as nurses, doctors, they just like an angels because they help a lot of people. They save people's lives. Imagine if we don't have that kind of professionals, how chaotic is this the situation. So I think I agree if we can say that the professional healthcare are really an angels on this kind of situation. Okay, so it's the on the other hand, if I can say the positive effects for us on this kind of situation, because if people say that there is always a bright side in every kind of situation, there is always a silver lining, you know, in a very dark sky. So we also can say that arts and crafts are experiencing surge in popularity amid COVID-19. So with much of the world on lockdown because of amid the COVID-19 pandemics, hands-on hobbies like crocheting or flower pressing, and I can say here is baking, because baking also part of crafts, yeah, have gained attraction as relaxing alternatives to screen-heavy activities. And this is from the scientific research that study published by the British Journal of Occupational Therapy found that knitting confers the well-being of those who engage in the hobby. The responses from 3,545 knitters worldwide show a significant relationship between knitting frequency and feelings of calm and happiness. So, I believe that most of you like the Korean drama or drakor, right? We can see that the oppa, yeah, the young, glowing and handsome man in that Korean drama, they're also actually doing knitting, yeah. So knitting or crocheting is not only for grandma,
yeah, but also for the young, handsome, and bright, handsome guys. Why? Because they said that it's very calming. Yeah, it makes them calm down when they got crazy. When in a very crazy situation, they feel that doing knitting or crocheting or even sewing, it really can calm their feelings or even cheer them up. So again, this is the scientific research. It's proof. Trust me. So here you can see the advantages or benefits from the handicrafts or just craft. First, in handicrafts, we reusability of waste material, and the waste material is really such a sexy topic or issue related to the sustainability. And second is improves the creativity and skills. And third is availability of raw materials, and also make money with self-employment. And this is very important also, that you can actually make money from your own hands and with a very basic or simple tools, that kind of stuff. And then strengthens the economic growth for the wider perspective and minimum investment. Yeah. I believe the students experience this, the minimum investment that you put when you're starting to make money by creating crafts, and then environment friendly. Yeah. And the last is good quality and uniqueness. That's also something like one aspect that inseparable from art things, because if we can create a uniqueness from our product, that means we already find the distinctness of our product, and that is very important. Okay, so related to how can we survive on this kind of situation or condition, here, I would like to show you like how craft industry in Indonesia dealing with the pandemic, because really this is a very rough, very hard situation that impacts every sectors in creative industry, yeah, especially craft. So here, I will show you the data about the craft industry in Indonesia, that Indonesia's creative economy contributes over 7% of national gross domestic product, and it spurs innovation across the economy. Its economic activities are based on individual creativity, skills, and talent that have economic value and contribute to social welfare. About 18% of young people aged between 16 and 30 years old, and the students, it's really part of this age, are active in the sector, from film, craft, and fashion to advertising, interactive games, and performing arts. So this sector are really a part of our school, our institution, the Indonesia Institute of the Arts, Yogyakarta. We have craft, of course, we have design, we have fine art, we have the performing arts, and also the Faculty of Recording Media. So the Indonesian craft product are a subsector of the creative economy that is included in the 3 largest contributors to national gross domestic product. So again, craft as a part of the creative economy or the creative industry has a very important role as the 3 largest contributors to the GDP, Indonesian GDP. And although the COVID-19 pandemic has left many sectors down, this condition has also given rise to the new trends in the community. Why? Because we are creative, we are the creative people. Even though we are all facing the same situation, is very hard, but it doesn't mean that kill
our creativity. It doesn't mean that stops our brain to keep thinking how to create an innovative or creative product in order to find a solution of that hard situation. So this is some of the efforts, how to deal during the pandemic or amid the pandemic. So first is collaborative emergency action by governments and companies. Contribution through loans, of course, and grants is necessary to help the creative industry workforce and artists. I think the loans and grants is very important aspect. And second is the allocation of CSR, the company social responsibility arts funding, the provision of micro grants to employees and artisans can be incredibly useful to help these professionals sustain in the short term. So I write here as a short term. In addition to providing grant-based financial assistance, establishing creative economy network of artists, artisan and culture organizations for peer-to-peer learning and sharing resources can be useful in closing the skill gaps, especially in terms of digital innovation. And why I give underline of the digital innovation, because the digital innovation is one of the key to solve the problem, because I bet that everyone here nowadays is very familiar with, let's say, Shopee, right? Like the student here, like me, actually myself. Shopee is really like a part of my stress relieving as well. Shopee or Tokopedia. So now everyone can sell their product to internet, to digital. That's really interesting. And in a long term, we can say that the government and corporates could work together to develop digital skill training, for shared learning across the diversity of Indonesia's languages, creative industry, and art form. Why? Because in this case, in Indonesia case, and we know that Indonesia is huge. We have like a lot of islands. Some are really remote, and they have their own languages. So it's very important to give to educate or train them very well. So, and then the second, the skills transferred through such training programs can help create a resilient sector that is digitally literate. And I think this is similar with what the yesterday speakers, Ibu TV, present. She also talked about the digital literate, and then well-networked can advocate for each other in times of adversity. And then participation from the wider community is also highly expected in order to save Indonesian craft products in the midst of a pandemic. So we can say it's gotong royong. We have to help each other. We have to support each other. Buy a local product. Don't buy everything is from outside. Okay, and then here I can say that the resilient aspect of craft industry. Why craft industry is very it's strong. It's resilient because in craft we have the dual function of the craft in life. First, craft is really offering aesthetic, philosophical objects, and this is very this is a very substantial aspect in our Indonesian craft product, because we know like batik or like keris or that kind of the masterpiece or adiluhung object of cars, they always, I can say, always have a dual function. They also have very beautiful aesthetic, very aesthetic, beautiful, but also have a very deep value or philosophical values. And second is applied object, of course, because craft usually has a functional object that we can use. And And then the creative economy of Indonesia has always been an integral contributor to the development of prosperity in the country. The million craftsmen, artisans in the informal craft economy are the DNA of Indonesia's heritage. See, it's the DNA is a key. And here, the Indonesian crafts that are already worldwide. And of course, I will keep saying, and this is not only this, we have a lot, but the one that I present here are really the one that already worldwide is and this is based on what the Kementerian Pariwisata, the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy or Industry, mentioned. That first is batik, of course. Yeah, everybody knows batik, and I'm so very proud of being Indonesia for having this masterpiece from our ancestor is the batik. For you guys who don't really know batik, so please come to Indonesia after the pandemic, so that you can feel the beauty of batik by your own self. You can touch it. You can even smell the wax from the batik. Yeah, that's very beautiful experience. And then we have the sasak tenun or sasak weaving. Sasak is one of the tribe from Lombok, the west Nusa Tenggara Barat, the west of Nusa Tenggara, the sasak weaving. And also we have a wayang kulit, the wayang kulit, a puppet, yeah. It's a puppet show. Also, we have angklung. Let me explain a little bit of angklung. Oh no, I don't have it. So angklung is the traditional music, alat music. It's one of the traditional Indonesian musical instruments, and precisely derived from West Java. So here, Jogja is a Central Java. It's kind of like in Central Java, and angklung is precisely derived from West Java. And angklung, a traditional musical instrument made of bamboo, and where to play it with wiggles, so it's very interesting, and to create or to produce a tone from that music. Okay, and this one is ulos. Yeah, ulos is from North Sumatra. In the history of the Batak tribe, ulos act as a bridge for each clan to get to know its ancestor. Clan is marga, in Indonesia. And ulos is actually the history book of the Batak people, because ulos can explain who he or she is and descends from which genealogy. So from only like one ulos, we can learn the history of the people. So that's why on the wedding day or wedding ceremony, the parents usually give the bride and groom a lot of ulos. Why? Because ulos carry stories and then tips and values from the ancestors that are then passed down to the recipient or passed down to the family. So ulos really have a very important role for Batak people. Batak is a tribe from North Sumatra. Okay, so again, I just want to telling you again the benefits of crafts and craft, because why it's matter, why it's important for us. One is for the stress relief, and then for the confidence boost, and then increases empathy, and then improves quality of life for those with illness. And it's proof, I mean, it's scientific research. And then enhance brain productivity and lessen effects of a serious health condition. So it's really stunning, yeah. Okay, so within the craft industry, it can play a big role in the circularity of material by turning waste into high value goods that can be resold as new product. So it's sustainability, so it's a zero waste, so it's eco-friendly. Those ideas, it's really connected with us nowadays, as because we have to save our earth. So okay, this is all the sources. And then last but not least, don't miss your day to create an artwork. Why? Because it's to refresh the world, and always share the kindness, because kindness is contagious and it creates happiness. And that's all for me. Thank you, Ibu Wit.
Thank you for your rich presentation, Bu Alfi. And also thank you for the beautiful painting. Is that yours? No. Okay. All right. I think I have this little suggestion for the male students here, yeah. If you want to look glowing and also handsome like Korean oppas, start knitting. Knitting, you know, menyulam. No. Oh, okay. Ternyata Ibu Alfi tadi bilang opa-opa Korea terlihat handsome karena mereka menyulam gitu. Jadi di sana menyulam adalah kegiatan that is not feminine, it's also masculine activity. So start knitting from now on. Okay, it's sexy. All right. Participant. The participant who are gathered here in this room, if you have question later on, yeah, please feel free to deliver your question in the bahasa. But of course, English will be preferable. If you use bahasa, I will try to help you to translate. Tapi kalau dengan Bu Alfi tentunya tidak butuh translation ya. Nanti misalnya kepada pembicara kedua dan ketiga, because one coming from Singapore and also the other coming from Malaysia, mungkin nanti butuh penerjemahan, I will help you. Atau Dara will help you. Right, Dara? Yeah. Okay, participant. The second speaker will be Ibu Hasalim Mfa. Recently, she is the program leader of Fine Arts Program, LaSalle College of the Arts, Singapore. Painting has been her interest, and she joined art exhibitions in her home country, Singapore, but she also joined many exhibitions in Indonesia, US, Korea, Ireland, and also Vietnam. But exhibiting her artworks, it's not the only one. She also involves in gallery management activity. She do a lot of curatorial works, and she also productively contributes to many artistic publications. Today, she will present Color in Dictate. Actually, in this session today, I find interesting use of words. Ibu Alfi memilih untuk menggunakan kata tumultuous. Daripada chaotic, ternyata memilih menggunakan tumultuous. And I think it's quite surprising. because chaotic is more familiar for us, right? I think Bu Alfi punya tujuan tertentu menggunakan kata-kata itu, and this is the second interesting word, indicate. Yeah, it is color, but it is indicate. So let's find out what will be talked about in this presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Hasalim of Singapore.
Thank you so much. First, let me share my screen. Hang on a second. All right. All right, everyone, good morning. I'm from Singapore, and very nice to meet you all here online. And I'm very, I miss Jogja very much. I used to go Jogja every few years for exhibitions or to visit people over there. So today my topic is on colors indicted, and I'm going to be sharing some of my, let me do something with my screen first because it's a little wonky. Hang on a little. All right, so I'm going to be sharing a few of my projects, which I feel is very important for me to talk about colors indicted. And these three words really are very meaningful for me. First of all, framing, mapping, and weaving. So there's a little bit of to do with craft as well, which Professor Elvi did talk about earlier. So first of all, I give a little bit of background of my interest. I would like to start with this project that I was doing in, many years ago, which I was interested in framing the cityscape. I was looking at these two references quite a bit. First is Rachel White Reid's sculptures, Untitled Blue and Green, where she cast the negative of the bookshelves. And then Leong Chi-wo, a Hong Kong artist who was taking photos of the skyline when he kind of put the camera upwards to take pictures of the sky. So I was very interested in all these little cutouts of spaces. So this is what I did. So what I did was I was interested in the same thing of negative spaces. So I went around with my camera as a kind of flaneur around Singapore, but this time instead of using the camera lens only, but I was interested in framing the cityscape through objects, for example, through windows or through trash cans or through different kinds of furniture that was framing the background at the back. So this is the kind of different points of view that was being framed by urban scapes or urban objects. Sorry, this image is not very good, but eventually I was transferring some of these images from drawings or from photographs into paintings like this, or in this way. So I use a lot of muted colors. So I'm going to talk a little bit about colors as well. So I chose to, I think in this series, I chose to depict the images in its original colors, but at the same time muting the front so that it is very grayscale or very neutral in colors. So this led to me being very interested in creating this idea of negative colors and to frame houses or spaces that were going to be demolished or are kind of expired. So, so this is for an exhibition that I did in the early 2000s, where if you look at the earlier paintings that I did, where there were a lot of original colors that the urbanscapes were found in, I decided to kind of mute it or to kind of remove those colors so that they became very much grayscale, almost like they are disappearing. So these are a few of the paintings that I did for this exhibition. Right, and then I moved on to another project. So I'm kind of giving you a narrative about how this idea of colors came to be a very important part of my practice. So in 2010, I was involved in a residency with Great Projects. It's an art space in Singapore. And I continued to do some paintings and using photography as a way of documenting. So this time I was interested in a kind of narrative for to signify mortality and also to talk about landscapes as well. So I was very interested in museology. I like to go to museums to look at the kind of collections that they have, but at the same time also very interested in the kind of narrative or stories that they were telling through the collections that they have. So this is used to be a very small museum in the university here, called the Raffles Museum of Biodiversity Research. So it's under the Department of Zoology, and they collected a lot of these insects and animals that have passed in Singapore and Malaya area. But now it has become a much larger museum. If you ever have the chance to come to Singapore, it's a very beautiful museum now. So when I went there, I was really very intrigued with all these little jars of dead animals. But I think the most interesting one really is the birds for me, because I think the birds for me were very interestingly laid out. They are not in jars. They are all laid out in this horizontal way, almost like they're sleeping, and their colors are still very much retained. So I find that really fascinating. So this is one of the example. And then the other interesting thing for me is the label that you find them in. So you have the name of the species, but also where they were found and when they were found. So I find that quite fascinating, because it does give a little indication of where they could possibly be found at. So I took that as a kind of cue to start looking for those spaces around Singapore, but just by following the space that it was on the label that it was indicated. So I went around Singapore taking pictures, and I in the end decided to use these pictures that has a very interesting horizon, because I think I was also thinking of the horizontal way that the birds were lying in. So these are some of my initial sketches of placing the birds together with the landscape, and also testing out the colors. So I still was very interested in the grayscale tonal values for the landscape. So in a way, I was trying to inverse or use colors as a way to signify landscape as being, as being negative, as being also past. Whereas, just sort of inversing the relationship that the birds are more alive than the landscape, because landscape actually are starting to erode and starting to, be transformed, especially in Singapore. So these are a few examples of triptychs that I, in the end, created for this exhibition. So let me come to this notion of colors indicted. So these few past projects that I was doing really made me think a lot about colors and what colors could mean in terms of narrative. So these are a few keywords that I was very drawn to when I was doing this particular project. This idea of frame, colors, weaving not just in actual craft weaving or paper weaving, but also how do we weave text together so that it tells a certain kind of story or not tell a certain kind of stories. So this particular project is called Colors Indicted, and I really want to study how we could represent and frame colors. So I think the first word that I was very much trying to anchor here is to talk about the word frame, because it is very much related to the word indicted, because indictment means a kind of accusation or a kind of, like a wrongful framing of things. So I would like to see in two ways. First of all, frame can be decorative, like you put a frame around a painting or a drawing. It is very ornamental. It plays a very inactive role. It is a boundary around an image to beautify the selected subject matter. It also doesn't question, and it really celebrates the association and meanings that is given by the viewer. However, I also see frame as like I said, accusation that is wrongful, and that it empowers, and it has the potential, I think, to empower the image or the object that lies within the frame, but this time sort of turning the power of the gaze inwards and shifting the position of the looker within. So now I want to see this shift of power as a question. So if we always give meanings to images and also to colors, why do we give it in a certain way? And now if we take away those meanings, what would happen? What will happen to those meanings, and what will happen to the image, right? When it has no more meaning. So this is really an exercise on that. So I was looking at this book by W.T.J. Mitchell. In this particular quote, I think he talks about what would blank ask for. So in this case, in this particular research, I'm really asking what would colors ask for. So I think just to simplify things, we often say red, it means anger, or red is passion, or blue is depression, or blue is blue, right? It is sadness. But what if we start to take away those meanings that we often associate colors with? And now if colors no longer has meaning, what would it ask for? All right, so this is generally what he was trying to say here. If we take away meanings from pictures or take away meanings from colors, in this case, in my research, what would then colors ask for? So this is the larger sort of context that I was really interested in. If I remove meanings from colors, if I start to disassociate that, what would happen to the colors, right? So what kind of meaning can we start to give colors? So this is the sort of framework that I'm trying to establish here. So colors are, first of all, employed as a tool of categorization for me, and I want to disrupt it. I want to reinvent new meanings and associations. And it is very important in this sense to sort of suggest that the colors can return to the original state of being as being untainted or being devoid of colors or meanings. And so this is really just a tool for me to elaborate on this idea of semiotics, representation, and classification. All right, I was looking at these two films as well in this study. I'm not sure if any of you watched this, but just a little brief context on this. In the film Pleasantville, there was this particular scene actually there's these two teenagers who got zapped into a TV show inside a TV screen, and they actually started to live in this world, which is actually black and white movie or black and white TV show. So everyone inside is black and white, and they actually do not really have meaning, do not have emotions. They are not encouraged to have emotions. So it's all very sort of programmed in a way. So one day when they start having feelings for each other or start feeling passion, they actually have colors. Colors came back to their faces, came back to their bodies and all that. So this is an attempt to kind of mask back the colors by this character to sort of make it grayscale again. And the other film is Wizard of Oz. This is a very old film, but I think there's a transition between the black and white into a very technicolor scenario, where the scenario of the colors became one that is hyper real. So I really wanted to talk about this sort of interplanes of colors that jump from the black and white or grayscale to the hyper real as this idea of simulacra. So in this study, just to reiterate, I just want to talk about how narratives are being represented, shaped, and contained within structures that frame them, and how can I then deliberately collapse these structures and frames in order to uncover the validity of the frames that formally encapsulate this narrative. So I decided to kind of set up a system. First of all, I really want to set up a system that is very organized, very systematic, and very logical in order to unravel what is inside this structure. So I went back to, I started to get interested in the idea of folding and to utilize this technique of origami to create this small little booklet where I could insert text in it. So there is a purpose to this use of text. I didn't want to use colors to represent, I don't want to use overt colors to represent this study, but rather to use text to talk about colors. So this book really come in really handy for me because the book can contain a certain number of texts within. I was also looking at the color chart as a kind of system. And so I think if any of you are painters here, you will have been very familiar with this system of studying colors. So this is what I did when I was training as a painter. You have to test the colors and then you have to jot down how it looks like and then what kind of mixture it was from. And then I was referring to this particular book, which give you a kind of alchemical breakdown of what colors are made of. So for example, Naples yellow, this is going a little bit into the chemistry of it. Naples yellow is actually lead antimonate. And if you break down what lead antimonate is, it's actually made out of lead, antimony, and oxygen. And the same with all the other colors. So you can actually break it down into the properties of chemicals. So if you look at what is common here, they are actually all chemicals. They are actually all could be found in this periodic table. So I used to study chemistry in high school, and I remember this very well. So you have to memorize all these little symbols, right? So now I'm kind of looking at it in a very artistic way of how these are actually contributors of how paint came about, or how all these properties of paint came about. So I was really looking at this particular chart to give me more information about the paint. So this is what I did. I combined all these different methods of folding, of text, and of chemicals. And I decided to create these little boxes of squares, which is similar to the painter's chart, right? And each square can give me 4 books, where each book has, so when you open each book, they actually have 8 pages, you can see here, 8 pages where you can input the text. So I decided to use the syllables, not word, but sound syllables to insert into each page, so that I get 4 multiplied by 8 syllables in each property or in each alchemical symbol. And this is how it looks like up close. So if you open it up, you can actually read a full sentence of it. So then the next thing I did was to create like a little story or a little poetry that is based on this particular chemical. So for example, carbon. Carbon, of course, have certain properties. It's actually widely found, it's everywhere around us. So I use some of these properties to create a little haiku type of poetry. So it actually reads like this, right? You find him paddling. So it's actually eight syllables per line. So if you read, it all fit into the book. There's another example. Again, going back to beryllium as a certain property. So I created all of them. So there were then, back in 2008, there were maybe 108 different chemicals. Now I think they have discovered more. So each property has 4. So there are a few hundreds of these books that I created, and each of them has a little story that is aligned with its properties. All right, so that was step 1. So really I wanted to create this very logical system where the stories actually make some sense. The next step that I was doing is to mix the text so that it can create the color. So this one has a little bit of math like kind of system for me. So I want to create a color chart next, because ultimately this is what I'm going for. So again, going back to this haiku-like poem, I have 8 lines and I want to create 8 books. I want to still retain the 8 syllables per line format. But however, if you think about it, I have actually more text than I need. So, actually I only need 64 syllables for the color chart. So I need to do a little bit of mix and match. So for example, this is areoline, which is a flash-like color. It actually has 4 properties of 4 chemicals, and I actually have too many texts here, and I only want to sort of narrow it down to only 64 so that I can have 8 books. So what I did is a little bit of chance, creating a bit of chance game. Following this Malame, which is a concrete poet, what he did is to create a kind of chance by a throw of the dice. So I was very inspired by that. And so I just pick and choose so that it became this particular poem. So if you see the color poetry, they actually do not have any meaning anymore. They are quite chaotic. They ended up being just sound. The narrative do not make any sense. All right, so this is the outcome of it. And if you read the color chart stories, they actually do not make any sense. So this is ultimately what I was going for, because I was going from a very logical system, something that is very systematic, makes sense, that the story tells a narrative. But this time, if you look at the color chart, it actually doesn't make any sense at all. All right, and this is during one exhibition. You can actually go through the text inside by browsing the books. All right, so this exercise on colors and my sort of critical look at what colors could be, or what the kind of meaning we could attach to colors continue to be a very important aspect of my work as I start to do other things. So I think the idea of weaving, like I said, is, the word weaving is an action of crafting, but it's also a weaving of narrative as well. How can you weave things together so that it creates a story or not create a story? So I was also very much recently, actually, I've been doing this project for a long time, but I think more recently I've been thinking more about the idea of crafting and weaving, and thinking about my moms and my aunts who have been, doing all this crafting at home, and how some of these actions are not seen as very legitimate form of art. Or doesn't really have a kind of space in the hierarchy of arts, right? So these are a few things that I think my parents and my mom and my aunts actually make a lot at home, like origami swans and quilting and making all these pom-poms and all that. And of course, I was very inspired by Annie Albers as well, who did a lot of tapestry weaving and has also associate a lot of these to some of the drawings that she made. At the same time, I was also looking at diagrams like this. I find them very interesting. Not just the outcome of tatami or embroidery or origami, but the drawing themselves in these craft books are very interesting. They may be seen as only instructional diagrams, but actually they are really fascinating as a form of drawing. So things like this, like instructions, but they are interesting diagrams or interesting drawings. So I found this particular instruction where in my craft book is a hobby book, and I've been using this instruction for a long time in my work by just duplicating it a lot, and so this is the outcome of what I've done. So I found this a very versatile way of working, because at one time I didn't have a studio. And I always wonder, without a studio, you're kind of a nomad. You have to find ways to work around very sort of flexible spaces, and to work around, sort of being nomadic, and being able to bring your work from one space to the other and continue working. And I find this a very key sort of practice or key way of making craft, because crafting, if you see knitting and crocheting or origami and all that, they can actually carry them around to make. You can see people doing knitting in the bus, or when they're traveling, or when they're waiting for someone. So it's a very portable form of art. Until it gets too big, right? But still, it is very portable. So I like the idea of portability. I like the idea of modularity. And I find this particular instruction very nomadic sort of way of working, because it allows me to actually build things up a lot through the modular system and of units, which later can be put together. So this is how it looks like as I was making it with this particular unit of origami. And then become large enough to become like an art object or a sculptural object. So this is one of the latest work I've made, which I showed in Yogyakarta, and I want to show you this in Akan. It's actually one of the last show that we did before it closed. And so I was playing around with its form, because actually when you put them together, they can be slotted into one another. It's very, very versatile. It can grow in size however I want it. It can be more squarish or more rectangular or more longish or horizontal and vertical. So this is a very versatile way of making sculptures or making artwork. So this is 3 years ago. So now I've decided to play around with the colors a little bit more. So formerly I was really just trying to stick to still a very muted color scheme, because I was very interested in sort of removing colors, right? So that it became just shadows and light. But these days I'm quite interested in sort of reintroducing colors back into the form. And I started looking at framing them. So these are a few of my plans of how do I sort of use frames or use acrylic to create different kinds of tones and gradients to the artwork. So this is the outcome of some of these plans. These are recent works that I show in the Esplanade in Singapore for a group show. And in this group show is actually a research on aesthetics of care. And under this umbrella of aesthetics of care, we are, my partner, my research partner and I, we are looking at how crafting technique can be used to interrogate different ways of making image and also designing as well. So this is my contribution. There are, of course, many other artists that we invited. There were 3 of them, including my partners, 5 of us. We use different methods of weaving, crocheting, as well as papercraft in my case, so I think also embroidery and yarn. So we use different methods of craft in order to introduce different ways of image making. So, so you see now I've sort of reintroduced colors back into the work. These are also other works that I've made for this show. All right. So yes, I hope I brought you on an interesting journey on the use of colors in art. Thank you very much. And this is my website if you want to see more of what I've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Hazel. Wow, what a remarkable work you do with those little papers. How long did you do that?
Well, you mean each piece? I don't really count. I should do a lot of, it's like muscle memory. After you are very familiar with how to fold them, it can be quite fast for me. And actually, I do multiple things when I fold them. I watch TV, I listen to podcasts, and I fold them. So I don't count the number of hours. But I think to get a box, usually I create like a box of colors for each particular work. It takes a few weeks. Yeah.
Okay. Audience, I think I should remind you, for those who join through Zoom, you may start typing your questions. Sebelum lupa, sebaiknya segera diketik di chat room. And for you who are here with us offline, you may keep your question on your notebooks or your mind, and we'll wait for it at the end of the session after we have the third speaker. All right. Last but not least, another lady lecturer will present her paper. Ibu Mumtaz Mustard, Ph.D. of UiTM Shah Alam, Malaysia. She is an expert on art fundamental studies, art education, and also multimedia. And her teaching interest covers art and teaching aids, digital arts, art history, and art fundamental studies. And in line with her expertise in and also teaching area, she conducts researches on art history, art fundamental studies, art curriculums, and multimedia. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mumtaz Mustard, Ph.D.
Thank you very much, Ms. Moderator. Let me open the slide, please. Can everyone hear me? Ms. Moderator, can you hear me? Is there any problem with the slide?
No, there's no problem. We can see the slide clearly and also hear your voice clearly.
All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. A very good morning. Thank you, moderator, and Dr. Alvi and Dr. Hazel Lee from Singapore, all the lecturers and beloved students, ladies and gentlemen. I am actually very pleased to be invited in this lecture series with the title Survivability and The Arts. Actually, I got this invitation in a very short time, and I don't know what types of title should be given to everyone here. But what actually comes to my mind is about Society 5.0, because this is the most current issue. It's not that current, but I would say that this issue is the most current issue that should be highlighted among academicians, students, artists, all the practitioners, to know what is happening in the art in this group, right? And specifically, I will also extend the explanation about art and society to my experience and observation. So this is the content. I will present what is meant by art in general, what is meant by Society 5.0, and I will also highlight 3 items in my experience and my observation, which is education, art creation, and my personal life. After all, I will give some conclusion and recommendation. All right, what is actually art? So because today we are talking about art, artistic art, does art should be beauty, does art should be some things, does banana stick with duct tape is art, does blank canvas is also art. So what is actually art? So in contemporary kind of spectrum, art is diverse in terms of its definition. But let us go to the very basic understanding. What is meant by art? The dictionary define art as the making of beautiful things. So I consider that there are several categorizations in defining what is so-called art. The making of is important phrase, the beauty, talking about the value, and the things, talk about the what are the things, right? So if we say that the making of is the process of creating art, the way the artist express, the way the artist, like Ms. Lim mentioned, the making of, I think she has gone through a very delicate, a very complicated and complex processes, and that was gained through several observation and experience as well. Mr. Hazel, that is very impressed. I like that. And how to the making of is also related to the medium, the technique, the process, or the styles that you go, that you manage to set that your artwork to become art. So a word beautiful, I think looking at Mrs. Lim's artwork, there are very good and very recent examples. Beautiful is not just about the beauty of that color, but we understood that the understanding of colors itself is also considered beauty. You know, the things can be, but in general definition, the making of beautiful things does mean we claim that everything is art. There's the broken chair is considered art. There's the wires is considered art. It is not everything can be considered art for me, because it is depends on certain styles, certain treatment, depends on certain people who create that things. So I would say that art is a medium of communication, which brought from the artist and translated the audience. It is called the process, the making of is called as an encode process, where artists express the idea, put their ideas, give the emotion, and deliver their thoughts. So in synchronization of process, it is the audience who will actually encode all the particulars, all the elements and principles of art displayed in that artwork. The audience will interpret, appreciate, and sometimes sympathy and share information. And how the audience translate should be synchronized with what the intention of artists wants to convey in their artwork. So with that communication spectrum, the link of that, I would say that is art. So that is the existence of art. So to extend the understanding of art, so what is actually so crucial about art today? During pandemic, before pandemic, and after pandemic. As what Dr. Alvin mentioned, that art matters. Yes, art really, really matters to us. Art matters with kids, school children, teachers, art do matters in social life and business nowadays, and art does matter, especially among youngsters, whether they choose to have music, movie, films, social medias, photography, and so on. So let us look at what is meant by Society 5.0. So looking at the development of the world, we would say that before this we have ICT, information communication technology. So the diverse or the richness of information nowadays actually embark us to a new paradigm, a new scenario, a new environment. Say a new environment, new lifestyle, new life spectrum, and new lifestyle. So the digital of industrial and social infrastructure is accelerating throughout the world. So digital transformation becomes a pillar of industrial policy. In North America, they introduced industrial internet, where internet will be very important things in their lifestyle. And Europe introduced Industry 4.0, which was traced from Industry 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. So what happened in China, they highlight on Made in China project. So everything is about Made in China. They are targeting to have a high gross incomes of the country, conquer all the economic sectors of the world. And Japan, which one of the first country who become a well-developed country. So they have a very rich of technology. Everything you mentioned it. Everything, they are all there in Japan. So to face their future nation, to face their future coming possibilities and potential, they introduced Society 5.0 to actually to balance their humanity, their human and technology at the same time. So these are the origin of Society 5.0 terms. And Asian country, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and so on. In Asian country, we actually targeting to be smart cities. But overall, even the words industrial internet, industrial 4.0, Made in China, smart city, I think Society 5.0 is actually applicable to be used around the world. And all the technology been highlighted in industrial 4.0 is about IoT, artificial intelligence, robotic, big data, and blockchain. So it is in general, in a simple way, we can say that Society 5.0 is human-centric society for economic development. Surely, for people who want to survive nowadays, it's about economy, it's about money, it's about it's not about the money, or also changes in cryptograph, daily, and so on. So Society 5.0 is human-centric society for economic development, and the most important thing is for the resolution for societal challenges. They should have a high quality of life, be active and comfortable. It shows that after this onwards, actually we have already started everyone around the world live in both cyberspace and real world. So everyday life, I believe that everyone here start their day with checking their alarm, WhatsApp, Instagram, emails, and booking Grabs and Shopee, Dr. Alvi. So we live in this cyberspace and real world at the same time. So what actually matters in relation to arts is very, very important to understand this kind of spectrum. In Malaysia, we have a very clear and well-planned 2050 We are expected to be a developed nation driven by STI, science, technology, and innovation. So we expect that all these kind of technology will appear in our country, high pressure resistant plastic composites. We will do plastic fiber, 3D rent for our painting creation. We also want to establish interactive virtual reality gaming. We already have introduced Proton 70 as an autonomous vehicle, a kind of autonomous vehicle by Proton. We aim to create a high durability furniture materials. Johor will be a furniture hub for furniture industry after this, lightweight plastic car body, all electric and hybrid vehicle, and so on. And under mostly Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation, we have a very big skills project in Malaysia, which is called Data Science 3.0, introduced a few years ago. And the mega science project involved creative industry, furniture, automotive, plastic, and composite plus tourism industry. So in Malaysia, in the context of creative industry, the aim is for arts, including visual arts and performing arts, media as for servicing design, and heritage for the perseverance and the contribution for the tourism industry as well, and functional creation, which related to fashion, textiles, metal, jewelries, and product design as well. So in disruptive technology affecting the art subsector, we will deal with all these mobile internet of things, cloud technology, advanced robotics, 3D and 4D printing, advanced material, and renewable energy. So I would say that the link or the circulation or the connection between art creation, artists, and their audience or designers, their design and their user are actually in this kind of framework. I would say that artists will be a co-creator. When artists want to express their creative ideas, but when they want to use technology, for example, you need to deal with engineers or computer programmer, or else he himself should involve in that particular expert, as what Dr. Hazel involved in the chemical study. So that is also a multidisciplinary skills and knowledge. So it is called co-creator. We are deal with collaboration and professionals. We use AI, IoT networks, and so on. So the hybridity of the hybrid form essentially may exist in actual things, simulated or virtual form, or even a mixture of them. So the disruption technique as what weaving narrative is quite interesting terms here, and because from that terminology we can understand the form, which is the hybrid of information. So through innovation, creation, and even disruptive process, local identity and local culture value are needed, right, to establish one particular artwork and how that artwork should be sustained in a global spectrum. So the culture element and the traditional element should be injected in that artwork. So the audience should be a technology-based, human-centered, as what we understood. Both artists and audience should synchronize in terms of their knowledge, information, and understanding as well. So the language of art. Nowadays, we say that if you want to create an artwork, you need to know your audience. You know, what kind of platform you want to display your artwork. Is that big or huge sculpture? So I think you don't need to involve in online exhibition, because online exhibitions should have the gist of online. So most probably you might create digital artwork rather than conventional artwork in online exhibition. But you may post it in social media or online for marketing strategy as well. So the education system, the community itself is the government initiative, as what Dr. Alvin mentioned about the funding, the R&D system, and so on, is very, very important. So let me share about my experience and my observations currently happening around me. In education, in art education, we practice ODL system, online distance learning approach within this pandemic, during this pandemic session. I use U-Feature system to trace students' attendance and to monitor their attendance as well in online class. And when I use Google Classroom for my platform for submission, delivering information, and the task submission. So I will also upload the Google Classroom application in my handphone so that I can directly edit and comment my students' work, using certain tools. And for this particular part, because I'm using Note, I'm using my stylus pen to do the correction of this color application, where students use pencil color in their artwork. Because we cannot meet each other, the students do their drawing at home, and we are here in our home office. So this is the challenge in drawing class that I face during this pandemic. And a very synchronized and online and offline system is much helpful. It doesn't matter of how the lecturer will make useful of it. If recorded video is suitable, then you may use that. Or if you need to, looking at this session, it is mid-session where I conduct every week during drawing class, because for the quiz session. So during quiz session, students are waiting for me to comment on their idea, to do face-to-face communication, asking what is the problem, and the student asks me how to overcome it in that particular period, moment in time. However, the recorded version or the recorded comment can be given through WhatsApp, can be given also through Google Classroom application as well. So even we are not having a studio class session, we also have a sharing session. We invite people from outside giving sharing session, lecture related to the class topic and so on. And with the helps of videos that I uploaded YouTube channel, in my YouTube channel, it is also very helpful for students to view and again to have very simple examples and so on. All right. During the ODL management, so the way we control the students' product is very, very important. And the student need to do the selfie, because if we say that you need to create your artwork in A3 size, so it should show A3 scale. But so for the final work, we say that you need to create it in A2 size. So the selfie is a very clear evidence And also the time lapse of video shows that the student really do their own work, and we can see and we can directly comment the way how you handle your brush, how you handle your pencils, what types of color, layer by layer, and which part is correct and not correct, and so on. So by submitting this time-lapse video, is a kind of control system in the education during this ODL process. As you can see, she really repeat that brush during that activity. All right, related to art creation, I do involve in creating artworks. So when Design Decode offer an online exhibition, so I think creating digital artwork is the most relevant approach to my artwork. However, I also do a combination of conventional approach and digital application, because when I want to have my expression, or I want to have effects on certain image, so I create it on canvas first, and then convert the digital data, the data into digital data. So this is an artwork entitled "Beautiful Yesterday," which my response about the latest issue, I think this year's, related to the Israel attack on the Palestinians. The grievance of the Palestinian people demand universal peace and prosperous life to be given back as they once sang. And this is clear from the verse of Atuna al-Tafuli. I'm taking the lyric of Atuna al-Tafuli, "Give me a chance." The lyrics is very melancholic and the lyrics is very touching. So I use that as my subject in this artwork. And I am also put the longitude data here, 5 degree and 1409 degree, which is the location of Masjid Al-Aqsa. So, however, looking based on my observation, I'm saying that even my digital artworks in Design Decode exhibition, I found that they are still a conventional artwork submitted to this kind of exhibition. This is an artwork by Siohek and Wan Jamila, which related to the pandemic expression. The first one is using Chinese watercolor painting. A cute birds sitting in box is actually indicate people which are safe in their own places. Kini rumahku tempat paling selamat. And Wan Jamila, an autism artist, create coronavirus as and all the frontliners, expressing the pandemic situation. And this is my artwork entitled 70 Years Ago. And this artwork is actually sent for International Craft Day for EC Jakarta. I created this using digital application, which is an easy and fast for, especially for online submission. You know, if I think during that time, the first MCO season, even we cannot go outside, we cannot go to the post office, and how can we post an artwork? So I believe that using this postage of digital artwork is much more relevant to do this particular exhibition. And in USM from Gallery Tunku Fauzia, there are several kind of activity which related to art and community. So in this project Monyet, the museum handling an art activity with dyslexia kids. So to understand the nature of the monkey lifestyle, the monkey routine, the monkey character. So they run an activity, an art workshop, even wayang kulit. Very interesting. They offer a blank wall for the student to create directly on that particular wall and create what they understand about Monyet and so on, which is very, very interesting. And looking at the ceramic industry in Malaysia, Bendang Studio, as one of the our alumni, they create a kind of aesthetic ceramic. They sell their product through IG, through the social media platform. So looking here, new collection launching in 27, this coming Saturday, from 12 to 6 p.m. You see that this is very short time of sales. I think if you start to open to the web, the IG, after 2 hours, it is sold out already. You know, even they post 12 to 6 p.m. because I start to click on the IG 30 minutes or 1 hour after the launching, it is already sold out. So this is very, very important in terms of how to market an artwork and how to market the marketing strategy and so on. Looking at the current competition, which is the prominent competition in Malaysia, Young Contemporary Art Competition. So this group, Semangat and IZ Electronic, come out with an idea of censor artwork using the Malay proverbs and the canvas, and they will develop a kind of censoring that actually invite participation from their audience. So my personal exposure and my personal life that involved with Society 5.0 and related to art and concepts of art. So I have run through this recorded session discussing about the young contemporary, the preparation for young contemporary art competition. That's assignment from Ministry Malaya, and that recorded video were launched in Facebook. And this is another poster where I am the panel of panelists of social dialogue, social budaya from Majlis Dakwah Negara during the pandemic, and we use online session of discussion.
Excuse me, Ibu Mumtaz, you still have 5 minutes?
Yes, thank you. And during pandemic, I also affected by COVID-19. I was diagnosed as positive person. And with this application, this is what we call service design. I am involved in using this application from Medic Healthcare declaration application. I need to declare my temperature, my pulse, and so on. With these 3 application and system of health declaration application, My Sejahtera, created by the government, and Saring C19 by UITM. And I use my digital camera to record my daily life, record it as my digital diary during quarantine with my family. I'm recording all the food that we call, everything that we run to during quarantine period. I would conclude that art and society 5.0 in context of education, in context of art creation and the individuals in Malaysia. I would say that virtual is a kind of space and mechanism which we survive in our teaching and learning environment even during pandemic. But the reality is about what we bring in our teaching, how we face the problem, and what kind of product we produce. And technology has given art a new definition, both tangible and intangible. It's expanded its function and prioritized a better quality of life. So people that are creative actually cultivate kindness, wisdom, and spiritual belief in addition to creating beautiful objects. As a person, I would say that although we like it or not, technology is constantly evolving to solve problems or perhaps provide better solutions. And always be grateful for what you have and celebrate positive rejuvenation. I would recommend that everybody here continue to investigate, especially all the dosen, the lecturers here, and the students continue to investigate the world of technology as a responsibility to the next generation of experts. And artwork creation must continue to expand and become more meaningful. But the most important thing, use negative effect must be addressed in innovation, and technology should not be applied until absolutely necessary. With that, Mrs. Moderator, I thank you and end my sharing session.
Iya, terima kasih banyak Ibu Mumtaz. Thank you very much. Yeah, Ibu Mumtaz has shared her keen observation on what happened in Malaysia now concerning with the pandemic situation and also art education and also art production. Well, okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to have the question and answer session. For the first opportunity, I will give to people to ask question, but for this time, I will invite the audience that I have here in this room to ask question. Please, to people, any question? Teman-teman mahasiswa? You may use, Indonesian. Not yet? Not yet for this moment. Okay, I'll wait later on, yeah? So let's go to the chat room in our Zoom then, because we already have some question. I will start the question coming from Ernesto Pujazon. He intended his question to Ibu Hasalim. Let me read the question for you. I would like to know more what you call negative color. I don't understand the term used. And if you talk about colors, why your early presentation is more in black and white chromatic colors?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I must say maybe I didn't explain that clear enough. First of all, I think when I mention negative colors, I'm referring to colors such as white mainly, and also black and gray. So color project are either white or gray or in dark colors like black. Yeah, I hope that is.
We are losing your voice.
Can you hear me now?
Your voice is on and off.
Oh dear. Yeah, my internet is a little bit unstable right now.
Yeah.
So when I mention negative colors, what I'm referring to is a kind of non-color. So white, gray, and black, for example, are non-colors for me. So which is why in my earlier works and also in the white of the paper that I use for the folding, they are normally white, because I find white as a kind of non-color and also a kind of original state of color. No. I hope that answered the questions.
Okay. Ernesto Pujazon, I hope you catch all the answer, even though it was a little bit on and off, but I hope you get the point. Again, still for Ibu Hazel, it comes from Professor Martinus Dwi Marianto. He is the chairman of this program. I like your phrase, weaving materials and weaving narratives. It is very great concept of embodying art. Could it mean that the essence of art is to arrange, to weave, or to connect anything following the need or the moment of the creating any narration?
Yeah, thank you for your comment. Yeah, I think I really was thinking through this idea of weaving, that it is beyond just about the actual gesture of weaving thread or weaving paper together, but we also use the verb weave to talk about words. Like you weave words together to create a story. So I think it has a lot to do with art making, I feel, which is your question. And I think in making art, we are all trying to tell a story, right? Or to retell a story or to reinterpret a story. So that is, I think, applicable to art making in a way.
Ibu Hazel?
Yes.
Yeah, you're still there.
Yes, I'm still here. Yeah,
okay,
yes,
yeah.
I hope I answered that question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your response to Professor Dwi's question. Again, I will invite questions from the floor here. Any question? No? Oke, pada puasa bertanya mungkin. Ya, let's go again to the Zoom chat room then. I have this question for Dr. Alfie, and it comes from. Are you sure you do not want to talk about this at home? Oke, dari Bapak Yuryawan Dafri. Oh. Which one? No. The admin has deleted those questions. I think let's go to your question first. Yeah. Okay. Can you can read you can read on your own chat room, right? Yeah, because I cannot see the Zoom. I just got the questions from the host. So
it's real though, but it's okay. So how do you see the progress or growth of craft in the future after the pandemic is over? Will it survive, or are we going to see the new works that hasn't existed before? It's both. I mean, I can say that both are works. So the craft after pandemics, of course, and always survive, because even before the pandemic is over, the craft industry, the craftsmen, the small and medium business enterprises that works in craft industry already work really hard and they survive. And also, it is also very possible to have or to for them to create a new things. Well, I'm not that sure that the product or the object it hasn't existed before, because people say that there is nothing new under the sun. That means there's impossible something really like a new things in this world, because if we think that something new here in Indonesia, it is very possible that's already there in, for example, in Africa or other continents. So maybe it doesn't really new, but it is innovative, it is creative. I mean, it is something that solve the problem of people. So the craftsmen or the craft people create something very useful, and it has, like I said before, it has dual function. It's not only beautiful but also functional, and of course it's philosophical. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Can we go to Bapak Davri's question now?
Well, this is funny though, but yeah, it's already explained that to strengthen the sector of the craft industry, support is needed from the wider community, and what kind of support that is needed and how could we start. As it's stated before, that we have to help each other. We have to raise the well, I can say like the solidarity, something like that. For example, the government, the Ministry of Tourism and Craft Industry, and even the Ministry of Ministry of Trade of Indonesian government launched the program such as buy local, buy local. So do buy a local product. And then not only buy, but I believe that you as a young people, young generation, you must have like a social media. So of course you can be like influencer, or maybe then you can share your experience for having a local product. You can broadcast that product, and then if you find that the local product needs to improve or need improvement, then you do it. I mean, tell the craftsman, and then try to help them in terms of design, for instance, and that kind of thing. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Alfi. I think let's go to questions for Ibu Mumtaz. Oh, yes. Okay, Ibu Mumtaz, are you ready?
Yeah.
This question comes from, again, Professor Dwi. Art that accomplishes the betterment of human lives sounds interesting in the context of digital technology, science, and modern development. Where is the place, and what are the roles of human feeling, intuition, taksu, dynamism? I don't know this word, taksu, imagination, and human natureness. That is the question. Please, Ibu Mumtaz.
All right, thank you very much for the question. This is a very challenging question, in fact. I would say that humans still there. Humans still there, and we are still here, because in a simple way, we use computer, right? We use computer daily, we use handphone, but who actually create that computer? It's still human. Who create that handphone? Still human. We use Grab application, even though we don't use taxi, we use Gojek and Grab, for example. But still, human create that system and application. What I can say that where do we actually involve or activate the human feeling? That we need to firstly understand the entity of human itself, because we have actually IQ and EQ. We have intellectual quotient and emotional quotient. Don't say that if we use machine and technology, there's no people there. Yes, there are no cashier in the bank nowadays yet, because we use ATM machine, right? But and again, that kind of syndrome can be actually. Let us look at the Aaron painting. Aaron painting, AARON. Aaron painting is actually a painting which created by a machine. But that machine is actually programmed by Aaron itself, the artist itself. So I would say that the human feeling, the human thought, and the human sensation is still there in the creation of artistic and art creation and art production. So that's why it is only people who understand people, and it is only people who actually know the needs of a better life. If we as an artist, or if we as a designer do not understand the needs of people or the need of human, so that we are actually not solving our life problem. So I think the place of feeling is still there, it's still in the human. It is not separate at all, it's still inside the human body. And if we can see that the combination of IQ and EQ, actually they are still SQ, which is spiritual quotient, balance up these intellectuals and emotional quotient. So I would say that the humanity, the feeling is still in the human, because human is still alive. We can say that a robot will actually, or a machine, take an order in this cafeteria and so on, replace human. But there are still the intellectuals who actually create that machine, and even the cook. I think after all, in the future, they will actually go back to the basic of our own life. Even we have, I think there will become, for example, vending machine of nasi lemak, for example, which actually not sells nasi lemak, but later on they will sell the ingredients of nasi lemak, the rice, the amount of water, the chili, the onions, and so on, and that will be a DIY of nasi lemak. Because at one time you will getting bored with buying instant food, then you, as a human, you still need that kind of feeling. So to understand human as a designer and to live as a human, there are still humanity in every human. I would say that as for the question, where is the place of humans and feelings? Thank you. Does I answer that question?
Ya, terima kasih Ibu Mumtaz. Let me go now to Ibu Hazel. There is a question for you, but it is in the Bahasa. Do you understand Bahasa or not?
No, I don't.
Okay, then I will help you to deliver it to you in English. The question is more or less like this. This question comes from Erna Dewi. She asked, what do you think we should do when we create an artwork? What method is best for us to use in choosing the color in the artwork? Should we following the trend, or should we following our own ideas?
Oh, thank you. I think, well, it's a very color specific question. I always think that in art making, is very important to have your own ideas, you know, and you know, trends may be there. Of course, it can be very tempting to follow trends. But I think ultimately, as an artist, as a creator, it is very important to choose something that really relates to you, that is coming from your own idea, rather than just blindly following trends. And I think it is very important to also think critically about what you choose, and to be very mindful and reflective about your choices, whether it's colors or whether it's a way of making things. It should come from you. And I think in art making, your point of view is more supreme than anything else. Thank you.
Okay, terima kasih Ibu Hazel. Dr. Alfi, I still have 2 questions for you. The first one is from Gina Fajriati. Oh, already. Okay then. So let's go to the next question from Profesor Dwi. Saya ingin bertanya, apakah Anda juga mengamati craft kontemporer yang tidak bertumpu pada karya-karya etnik yang sudah mentradisi, namun yang didasari pada hal-hal biasa dari kehidupan saat ini? Mohon informasi sebab ingin sekali saya mengetahui karya-karya orang dari daerah urban yang budayanya sudah hybrid. Okay. Okay, the question is more or less like this. Professor Dwi want to know whether Dr. Alfi also observed the contemporary craft that created not based on the ethnical or traditional values. So he wants to know the craft that produced in the urban areas that already following a hybrid culture.
Okay, thank you, Professor Dwi. Yes, of course, there are some, especially in the cases, especially in European and American states, in the States, there is a movement called craftivism. The craftivism is really talk about how craft can be a medium or vehicle for all of the expressions or sending messages from the craft people, or especially the craft people, to share or to express all of their feelings or all of their personal thought or thing about, like in a critical way, about what happens around their life. For instance, craftivism is also talk about social, about politics, about environmental, about the anti-war, about gender issues, and about the racist or racial, and etc. So maybe I don't know if I can still share something here. Okay, I think I can say. So this is the image of one of the craftivism activity or movement. And if I'm not mistaken, this is in Brazil, or for sure is in South America. You can see that the young guys or the guys they're doing knitting and crocheting. Yeah. So they want to say that nowadays, in a very modern era, not only women has to do the domestic things, but also the husband or the man have to be able to be very active, also taking care of the domestic care. So here maybe we can say that the domestic things not only the wife's responsibility, but also the husband or the dad, or so this is what they're doing. Also, there are like example of the people in Canada, but I forget the name of the city. They are covering the trees in the downtown of that city with crochet, with knitting, because they really want to say that please save the trees, save the earth, something like that. And lately there is also like a very very beautiful, to me it is beautiful works of knitting and crochet. The activists of that craftivism put like very mini sweater, from that knitting, and they put it on the penguin, because they want to say that because of the climate changing, because of the global warming, the penguins' lives is really in danger. So we really have to put a lot of attention to save the planet or save that penguins, that kind of things. And to me, that is very, very, very urban. Yeah, it's the idea of creating or to start that kind of activism. It's come from the urban things or urban problem that they have. So they think that they can use craft as a medium or vehicle to share or to express their feelings, that kind of things. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Is that a part of a tourism package? No. Okay. Those men seem enjoy it though. Okay, I really enjoy it. Okay, thank you, Dr. Alfi. Okay, again, sudah senyum-senyum aja kayaknya ada yang mau ditanyakan. Please, yes, I have two questioner.
Hello. Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Hello, my name is Afifa. I want to ask a question for Mrs. Alfi.
Okay, please.
It's what is the most changes in craftsmanship world, especially in Indonesia? And is it affected you in person or no? Thank you.
Okay, do you want to answer that question right away?
Yeah,
okay.
right away.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mbak. Siapa tadi? Mbak Afifa is very beautiful name. Okay, so I can say that the most changing is not the development anymore, but I can say it's the shifting in on the field of craft. For instance, is nowadays craft. It's not only in terms of place, in terms of place. Craft object is not only placed in a very domestic area, let's say house, and very more specific, let's say a kitchen. Yeah, for instance, if we say about utensils, yeah, usually people always relate craft object with something very functional, like utensil, like spoon, like a fork and plate or mug or chair or that kind of thing. But nowadays, the craft object has a very great shifting, because we also, like a craft people, also already place that craft object in the public area and as a public art. That's the biggest changing, if I can say. So in terms of space, also in terms of functional, the craft object is not only has a very like applied or functional things or functional role, yeah, but also has, like I told you, the expression, we can use craft as share our expression, like the craftivism things. And also even the size, yeah, the size of the craft object is not only something that is reachable, but nowadays the size of craft object is also can be giant or gigantic, is huge. But on the other hand, we can still say that's the craft object. Why? Because the DNA is there. The DNA of the craft object is still there, even though it's gigantic, even though it's not normal anymore for the regular object, but still we can say that's the craft. You know, the DNA is such as the intimacy from the craftsman, between the craftsman with material, yeah, the intimacy of the material, and also how like time that we spend to create that objects, that kind of thing. The thing that maybe we cannot really find in other field of art. Hopefully you get that point. Thank you.
Iya, terima kasih Mbak Afifah. Let's go to the next questioner. Yeah.
Hello, good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, Ms. Hazel. I want to ask a question to you, but first of all, I want to express my admirations for your work. It has a lot of characters, and I understand the challenge they are generated while creating those works due to its vastness. And my question is very simple. I would like to know, where did you get your inspiration for your work in? And you claimed before that it was the all ideas, it comes from you, but have you ever felt like uninspired, and how do you deal with it? That's my questions.
Okay, Ibu Hazel, please.
Hi. It sounds like a very simple question, but it is very hard to answer. Thank you for that. I think, you know, I think it's very hard to be original these days. It is definitely a challenge because we have, especially with social media, you know, we are constantly looking at things and very easily inspired by things that we see. You know, I think it is still very important to retain a sense of who you are and to pay attention to things that are coming from you and is a part of your experience. And I think in my case, that's really what I try to do, even though, you know, with social media, with, you know, people around you, you are constantly very much inspired by things you see and also things that people are making. So I mean, it can be a challenge for me too, but I try as much as possible to draw inspiration from my own experience and also from my own observations of people around me who are dear to me. And in the case of, for example, the craft work that I was doing with the paper origami, that is from a very you know, chance encounter with a hobby book, which I often look at when I want to make like little craft things, right? So you try to reinterpret things that you see. And then also I was very much inspired by my mom and my aunts, because I see them a lot, you know, at home, just doing things that no one really pay attention to because they are made for the house, you know, like little decorations. And to me, they are art pieces. And they are not valued so much because they are sort of made, you know, when they are, you know, chatting or when, you know, they just make it around the house. So I find I often are very drawn to things that are that usually do not have a lot of value in society, and I tend to want to elevate it, to give them a kind of voice, which is why I'm sort of incorporating some of these practices that are, not often deemed as important or valuable. So I think my advice is really to draw inspiration from things that you can observe and things that comes from you, and to constantly jot down all these observations in your little notebook. It can come in really handy in the future if it's not like immediate, like you can't do anything with it right now, but it can be something that you can work on in the future, and to continuously, if you're an art maker, to continuously build on things and to build on all these experiences, and don't be impatient. And I think that's my advice to all these young practitioners and young artists. Thank you.
You're still young too.
Young at heart.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Hazel. More question? No more? Well, I have one for Ibu Hazel too. This is my question. You use color to tell story, to tell narratives, but I think sometimes colors are very cultural.
Definitely.
What red means in Indonesia might be different from what red means in a certain place in Africa. What is your strategies to anticipate this kind of situation?
Well, yes, for sure, colors mean a lot of things to different culture, especially when they're used in flags, right? So it's particularly strong when colors are used in flags. I have one example in Vietnam. When I was doing an exhibition, I was painting. I was doing monochromatic paintings for like illustrations. And for me, it's monochromatic. Of course, it's gray and black and white. But I painted one section of my illustration of the Vietnamese flags, but it's monochromatic. So that was like an absolute no-no. So during one of the preview, I think the censorship people came and they removed without telling me that particular drawing. So that is, of course, very eye-opening for me, because for me as an artist, it's purely just about expressing a scene in a monochromatic way. But for the Vietnamese government, I suppose it was very offensive. So I think we obviously, as an artist, we need to be quite sensitive about these sort of things, or these sort of choices that might become offensive, and to be always sensitive about it. But what I'm trying to propose in my research is to remove these meanings, that at the end of the day, colors, if they have a voice, they should be appreciated for what they are, without the meanings that they are given in all sorts of cultural contexts, and to be appreciative of how they actually appear as this color, right, as this shade. And this is ultimately what I'm trying to do. I know it's a very difficult task to not have associations or not have meanings attached to colors, but I think this is, a very complicated world, and we have complicated a lot of things. So I have, in a way, a very noble kind of idea here, is to remove all these meanings and start to appreciate colors for what they truly are, without all these associations that we have, given to it, no matter which cultural context we come from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Terima kasih, Ibu.
Sama-sama.
Can I go to Ibu Mumtaz, please? Because I have this one question too for you. Ibu Mumtaz, if we talk about the 4.0 society and the 5.0 society, they are given different names. So there must be different characteristic among these societies. My question is, what is the most distinctive characteristic of the 5.0 society compared to the 4.0, and how this characteristic affect to art?
All right, thank you. You mean society 4.0 or industrial 4.0?
Yeah.
Okay. What is the most distinctive characteristic of society 5.0? Is it? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Okay. What is the most distinctive element in society 5.0 is actually dealing with a very high technology compared to previous technology, the IoT, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotics, and so on. The most distinctive is, I think, Society 5.0 is actually turn people into a new kind of life. You know, it's about not the tangible only, not the tangible form only. For example, like this. In Society 4.0, previously, we actually been promoted to watch a movie from poster, billboards, advertisings, and so on. But it is telling about the features that will come out in the film industry, in the movie kind. But in this Society 5.0, we have turned into a new dimension in promoting that film, because they will actually expose the making of or the trailer first. So what is the importance of trailer in promoting a movie? It is about to educate the audience first before the audience go to the cinema. You know, so this makes things different. And why do people buy certain things? The fashion items, for example. People would go to the shops, to the mall, to look at the dress, for example, and buy that particular dress which been promoted by the poster and the mannequin that wear that costume. But today, people do not inspired to buy that costume based on that previous kind of approach. Today, people who buy a costume, for example, H&M, for example, people who buy that costume is based on the understanding of that particular costume. For example, they introduce slow fashion, for example. When slow fashion be adapted in H&M production, they actually invite the user to give all the what they call pre-loved items, and then they can get a return in terms of voucher and so on. You know, then the interpretation of people who buy that particular fashion is actually they are well prepared with the concept of the fashion before they buy that particular form. So this is the most distinctive part which differentiate between Society 4.0 and Society 5.0. And if someone who wants to sell their art, their product, or for example, in a very simple way, for example, fried chicken, for example, we do have various types of fried chicken. You know, nowadays, even ayam goreng dara, you know, ayam goreng dara, ayam goreng mak janda dan sebagainya. That is to get the audience to buy the meat. But what makes a certain restaurant can sell $1,000 of meat, a plate of meat? It is because of they actually do not only sell the meat, but they actually sell how that meat be prepared. So this is a very organic, and this is actually the meat that they developed is actually been handled in a very biotechnology, high technological farm, and so on. So these are the things that happen in our lifestyle nowadays, you know. And what makes people buy a menu? Before this, we ask a menu, you know, from the restaurant, you know, to serve us at the restaurant. But nowadays they have a different treatment. They actually do the demonstration of the cooking in front of us. That is a promotion style. So this is what makes Society 5.0 is different from the previous kind of society, and in the context of art. So if you can say that before this, we only think about how to design menu card or menu books. But nowadays, when we deal with service design, the designer need to think about what kind of service and what kind of promotion that should serve our audience. So that is the most important thing. It's actually should be the designer or the artist should be actually go beyond from their audience. So that I would say about your question.
Okay, thank you for the elaboration. Terima kasih Ibu Mumtaz. I think I saw something, a question from Bapak Dafri. He is our Vice Dean for the Academic Affairs, and the question is for Ibu Mumtaz. The question is like this: what do you do in UITM in conducting the teaching learning process in this pandemic situation?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. That is much more practical to me. During these 2 years, during the MCO period, we are actually asked to handle or conducting ODL class, online distance learning class. It is not purely online class, but I do provide MOOC class as well, but I don't use that at school. When we say that ODL class, online distance learning, means that I have several choices to conduct my class. So I use offline and online application. For the online application, I will normally use Google Meet, and also taking attendance using the future system. But I also uploaded certain, I also use certain video or links from YouTube and just post it to the students so that they can just click as recommended link for them to refer. And I also respond to any question or any difficulties faced by the student in using WhatsApp and sometimes phone calls. And we also use Google Classroom application, and that is where we use I send notification tasks and for the student to submit their artwork. So instead of that, we also invite a guest lecturer, and I also invite a speaker from the Islamic Art Museum. And that is actually very helpful because I cannot bring the student to the gallery, to the museum. So I invite the gallery in online session so that they will choose any items from the museum and explain to the student. So I think that it goes similar to my supervision of PhD students. We do online presentation to actually to trace the performance of students. They will present using slides and they will share what is their progress and so on. So I think for undergraduate student and postgraduate student is slightly different in terms of how we should cater them. Undergraduate student, because I teach undergraduate student for a studio class, so I think they need more attention, especially in responding to their artwork. So I will normally take on Saturday to review and give comment in the Google Classroom, and I will also do quiz session during a peer class session. But for postgraduate students, they don't have any difficulties because they have transport, they have a very good coverage. I will fully utilize 3 hours of lectures using Google Meet. But, that's all.
Okay. Is there any complaint from the student concerning this method?
Yeah, that is important issue that to be highlighted when we want to conduct this ODL system. The first thing that I practice is I will send a survey to the student. I create a Google form and I will ask them what level of their internet connection, and what do you have in your hometown. Do you have A3 size up to A2 size, or do you only have A4 size of paper? What kind of wet media do you have? Do you have watercolor, acrylic, oil paint, and so on? And after that, after I got all that information, then I will plan the project brief and so on. So I think they don't have much complaint on the execution of the teaching and learning process, but yes, there are some students who applied for leave and drop their status as student because of family problem and personal problem.
Okay, thank you, Ibu. I think I still have 5 minutes, I think. And if you still have question, one person to ask question. Jika masih ada. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Excuse me, Bu Afi. I'm so sorry that I come late and then I can follow your material completely. But as far as I know, that we are the same booth, but it is different section, you know. That I in batik and fashion. So what do you think about the material of batik and fashion? This because it is must improve, yeah, must improve for the not just personality product, but also about the personal product also. It's number one. So number two, perhaps it is there is at the time. Yeah, for the who the second speaker. Ibu Hazel. Because we have also meaning about the colors. In fashion, there is meaning of the color and also the personality and also behavior. Because the color itself, it is different with general color. But in fashion, we have also a specially color that it is throughout the personality and also the behavior. What do you think about this opinion? Okay, thank you.
Iya. Silakan, Ibu Alfi.
Apologize, Pak Amin, but thank you for the question. But could you please repeat the question for me? Thank you.
And the Fakultas Kriya, but it is a different section. So, because myself, it is teach about the batik and fashion, and also what do you think about batik itself? Not just Kriya, but also it is the modern and personality also about the fashion. Not just in Kriya, but also in fashion especially.
Okay, thank you. I think I can get the point. I have a very interesting quote, not quote, yeah, a statement from the batik expert. And she said that batik is the work of the Indonesian nations, which is a fusion of art and technology by the ancestor of the Indonesian nation, Yeah. Batik Indonesia can develop to a level that is incomparable both in design and motif or process. And the batik variety patterns that contain meaning and philosophy will continue to be excavated from various customs and cultures that develop in Indonesia. That means batik really has a very sophisticated things on it, because it's also like she said, that it's a function of art and technology, because nowadays we see that in order to create batik, we also use like a computer, like what Pak Komar did in Bandung. So he used a lot of computer on his process. But on the other hand, he also still use a wax. And also there are a couple of research produced by generates by craft people or the researchers of craft at ITB, Institut Teknologi Bandung, how nowadays batik is really, we can say that batik is really a product of technology and traditions. So that activities or that thing is really a thing to how we respond the movement or the progress in the batik itself. Yeah. And fashion, I don't think that I'm that expert on that kind of things, the fashion. So maybe you have the answer, the much better answer for that. Okay, thank you, Pak Amin. Bagaimana Bapak? Sampun? Yeah, okay. Yeah. There is another question for Ibu Hasal dari Bapak Amin. Ibu Hasal, did you get the question?
I hope so. I think it's coming from a fashion point of view.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, maybe I try my best. Yeah, actually, before I decided to do fine arts, I was very interested in doing fashion as well. It was two of my top choices. But in the end, I chose fine arts. But I think in many ways, a lot of my artwork has sort of been inspired also by fashion in some ways, or the technique of of creating fabrics. So I think in my recent works with the folding, what I was also trying to create is a kind of fabric-like paperwork, which is sort of become quite flexible and malleable, and it can be sort of draped. So if you look at it closely, if you get a chance to see my website, they also play with this idea of duality. It looks very soft, but actually it's actually very stable and very solid. So I like to create this sense of duality. I think his question is talking about colors as well. For sure, I think in the world of fashion and also how you dress, it conveys different kinds of message. Particularly if you look at, say, Hollywood stars, right, or celebrities, when they dress up for, say, the red carpets, they also sort of make a statement with those color choices. And many of them are obviously very much in tune with the trends as well. But I think, like I said before, what I'm trying to do here is trying to sort of empty out the meanings of colors and to appreciate them for what they are, instead of trying to go back to the original way of giving them so much meaning that we are unable to appreciate colors for what they are or what they appear as just these shades of color. I know it's a very difficult task because we often see colors through all these different lenses that we are educated in, or where we are coming from in different cultural places and different societies. We tend to see colors in a very cultural lenses. And yeah, but what I'm trying to give to colors is the ability to speak for themselves. So if colors are personified, if they are actual characters, what do they hope to have, or what kind of a message do they hope to have if they do have a voice? I hope I answered your questions. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I think it's close to the lunchtime. And I think it is time for me to end our session today. I won't conclude anything. However, I will give time for the three speakers. If you still have things to say, I will give you time to say it. I will start with Ibu Alfi.
I think, thank you so much for having us and for coming and for having a very enlightening discussions. And hopefully, of course, the pandemic can be totally over, so we can start to do our regular activities and meet people in real, so that we can see the feelings and feel it. Okay, that's for me. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, Ibu Hazel, do you still have something to say?
Thank you everyone for inviting me for this lecture. I'm very honored to be able to share what I do here to people over there. And I hope one day we could meet in person. It's been too long existing in a virtual world. But I think this has definitely changed the way we think about art making and also connecting with others, and also the way we want to connect to certain ways of making. So that's why I think the other two presenters also, thank you for sharing. We also talk, they both also talk a lot about crafting and also kind of giving space to slowness in a way, to tactility, to materials, and to supporting local communities and having more empathy and care. I think that is very important. It's becoming more important, and I hope it stays with us. And I hope that is something you can take away also from this talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Hazel. Ibu Mumtaz, it's now your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, all the team for this guest lecture series. Thank you very much, Dr. Yul, EC team, and thank you also very much to Dr. Alfie and Hazel for very interesting sharing session. And I think I would say that what else will come to us, we just face it and we keep on survive with our intellectual, emotion, and spiritual ability. And particularly for Asia, I think we need to remain our culture, our heritage, and our what we have in our country. I think Asian country, Asian art we keep on survive even we go global, because the identification of culture and our art is actually make us survive today. Thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the third day of the lecture guest lecture series. I would like to extend my and also the committee's deepest gratitude to all the speakers. Thank you very much for sharing us your ideas, your insightful thoughts. And for teman-teman mahasiswa, terima kasih for joining and contributing. We still have another session tomorrow. If you want to join, we would like very, very happy. We will be very, very happy. And thank you very much for today. I give the audience back to the Master of Ceremony.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Remarkable lectures from all of the lecturers. Thank you, Dr. Alfie Liviani, Ms. Hazelim, and Ibu Mumtaz Mustard. Ladies and gentlemen, since there was a slight change and all of the lecture has been presented, we have come to the end of the lecture for today. If you want to access the recording for today's lecture, also the lectures from Tuesday and Wednesday, the recording will be uploaded on our official YouTube channel, FSR ISI Yogyakarta. Tomorrow, we will have two lectures from Dr. Khairat Pitayamate, presenting use of cultural capital for Thai design, and Professor M. Dwi Marianto, M.F.A, Ph.D, presenting representation of eco-aesthetic engagement via biodynamic farming starting at 8:30. We will see you tomorrow. Good afternoon. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.